It's been great. We did it. We're on the beach.
Amazing.
All right. What time does your flight leave?
A few hours.
You know, I'm taking the boat. I can't fly right now. I got to take the boat.
In the boat?
Is that my boat there?
It's your boat.
It's leaving.
Thanks for joining us for another episode of Already Was Sports Friends podcast. Each week, Coach Ben and Coach Kyle share their insight, interview special guests, and offer some extra words of wisdom. The victory is ours because we've already
Hello and welcome
won.
to Already Won, a Sports Friends podcast. I'm your host, Ben Wellman, here with the Mad Dog on location.
We're together.
In person.
I love it.
No split screen.
No split screen.
Also-
Drinking tea.
Also no bookshelf. Hey, Mad Dog, if I told you you'd be drinking tea at 3 o'clock, what would you have said?
I wouldn't believe you. I wouldn't believe you, Ben.
But here we are. I'm so excited for this because this is season 2 review in the blue.
Yeah, you said this in the beginning. I was all excited. Went from red to blue, but I'm kind of blue myself.
Oh, you need something more.
I know. I need a blue sky.
Blue sky?
Maybe I'm okay. I mean, we're together. Can we find someplace better than this cold weather that we're in?
Blue sky, blue sea, to let the Mad Dog not feel blue anymore, to enjoy the review. How about that?
Do we have the budget for that? Ben, blue sky, blue sea. What are we doing?
No books, but is this okay?
It's blue sea, Ben.
No bookshelf. This will have to do. How's this, Mad Dog? Happy?
Blue sky, blue ocean.
But more importantly, we've got these. This is the end of season 2.
Turn around.
Here we go. Wildcat and the Mad Dog. This is the definition of already won.
We're not leaving here, people. We're going to record every episode.
So, season 2 review, Mad Dog. This is what we're going to do. We had a topic and a tool on every episode, right?
Every episode.
Every episode. You enjoyed them a lot, right? So we're going to review season 2. We're going to go through some amazing topics that we had. We've grouped them. And we're going to go through some tools for you guys. If you haven't had time to watch them, we are going to summarize, right? We're going to get the nuggets and we're going to give them to you, bite size. So we've got 5 topics. To start with, we are going to go with adversity. We had a lot of different people talking about adversity. We had Charlie Ward, brilliant episode to watch. What was his adversity around?
Blew out his knee. During his career, that could set anyone back. It could cause people to stop playing.
Yeah. But what he did was, he was the Heisman winner, right? But then he went into basketball and he kind of shared, like, through adversity that happened, you know, kind of he looked back and thought that God had a plan over his life. And you can do that with high insight, right? So he talked about that. Another person who went through disappointment, we had, during the Olympics, we had a former Olympian on. Remember? Who do we have on?
Oh, Canada. Canadian rower. Of course, there was another fancier term that she used, which I forget, but yeah, Sarah Chowdhury.
Yeah.
Great, amazing testimony.
I remember her story, you know, about this point where she was in 2nd place and then they went down to 3rd and then dropped out to 4th, just out the medals. And I'll never forget this story. What she said was, everyone was devastated. Nobody went to watch the men win gold. So the Canadian men's team won gold. The only person that did that was Sarah. Everyone else was so devastated, so gutted, that she was the one that went down. That took a lot, right? To face a bit of disappointment, not get a medal, and then go and watch the men's team. Would you have watched the men's team, or what would you have done?
I probably would have sat in my room and sulked. I wouldn't have gone down. I would have joined the other rowers and said, that's it. Why are we here? What are we doing?
But not Sarah. Not Sarah. And it was interesting as well. Remember Sarah's dad wrote something in a piece?
That was crazy.
Yeah.
When her dad took, what'd she say? Not her glory, but her story. It was her story.
Yeah.
And she kind of felt, I don't know, offended, but kind of taken aback by why is he telling it?
Because he wrote it like how to deal with failure. I thought it was fascinating. Also, just looking at her earthly father, but then also this podcast about showing the bigger victory about being already won, right? What does our Heavenly Father think of us? Does he care about our results, our gold medals, anything like that? No, he doesn't. And I think Sarah's went on this journey afterwards. She's now working in disability sports and for FCA. And I think she's realised what Heavenly Father says about her. You know, that difference there, I thought that was fascinating. So 2 great guests there. But we also had Coach Mike Masters, who'd went through some adversity. Do you remember what happened there?
Yeah, I think it was early on in his coaching career. You know, his dad was a coaching legend, I guess, in the Buffalo area. Kind of took up the reins or tried to live in the shadows of his dad. And I think during one of the course of the year, one of the seasons, the football season, 2 players from the team got in a car accident and died.
So they actually left the team, right? And then after they left the team, they passed away in a car accident. And Mike spoke very, very emotionally about that and how that changed his approach to then saying, hey, look, I need to try and... He talks about transforming the player from the inside out. Remember scratching and engraving? That's what character is. And he did that. And it was such a significant thing for that disappointment changed his whole coaching philosophy. And you know what was interesting? A lot of our guests, actually, we had some elite athletes, they all spoke about every single person had faced some sort of disappointment or frustration or difficulty along the way, right? The deeper the adversity, Mad Dog, the deeper your character gets, right? The deeper the valley, the stronger your character. Wildman's Weekly Words already on the beach. That's what we get. That's what we get on the beach in the team review. We've had a bit of that about adversity, but we also had athletes from the world of elite sport, right? Did you enjoy some of those guests?
We had professional footballers, basketballers. You mentioned Charlie Ward. We had Anton Caldwell. I mean, and some Irish.
Yeah, basketball players.
Married couple. Amazing.
That was really good. But what they spoke about, I loved. Let's talk about the Irish basketball legends, right? Aina and Leah. First time we had a married couple on Already One podcast. They spoke about, I love Aina in particular, talked about being in the Houston Rockets, right? Yeah. Around that environment. Do you remember the Kardashians in the gym? He spoke about meeting Dwight Howard in the locker room for the first time, remember?
Dwight Howard.
Yeah, seeing Kobe with his shorts there and things like that.
Got a picture of Dwight.
James Harden.
James Harden, the beard.
Better than your beard. And James Harden, he said, do the basic things really well, right? Yeah. That's what he said, to step back. But he also spoke about, in that elite environment, what it's like. He thought there was going to be some crazy things they did. Elite environment, basic X's and O's, and the better the coaches are the ones that give a personal approach to players. Yep. I thought that was unique, right? Around that as well. And Leah gave some good insight as well. What about Antoine Caldwell? He was an ex-pro, American football. What kind of things do you pick up from AC?
Well, apart from him being confused with Alabama and the Crimson Tide, we're forgiven for that. But I think he was great because, humble guy. I mean, he could be doing anything he wants. He could be being on TV shows, owning businesses, but he chose to live his life, serving God. I think so. Coming out of the pros, it's never easy, but he's chosen the right path. Yeah,
and he's with his pastor as well. And he talks about how they work out together, every week and intentionally kind of get together. Gym bros together. That's worth checking out. I mean, a unique conversation, nearly an hour, about, how do you maybe support elite athletes and how they're just human beings. Yeah. That was another thing that came out. So Jacob brought some elite insight about the world of elite sport.
Houston Texans. Super Bowl. He predicted it this year. Could happen.
Could happen. Let's see.
I don't know about the Packers.
But what was he giving in terms of athlete-centered approach? What kind of tips was he giving around?
I just think take care of yourself. Sleeping is one of them. Mm-hmm.
Yep, nutrition, another one. Strength and conditioning. And also mental well-being.
I was just going to say that, mental well-being. That's it. You took the words right out of my mouth.
He was an athlete-centered approach. Yeah, he was talking about just in that environment how he does it, looking at every individual player. I thought that was fascinating conversation around that as well. Talking about Bishop Tony as well, an elite England hockey player. Remember that as well?
He's played ice hockey?
He was talking about field hockey. Educating the Mad Dog can educate you if you go back and listen to it. And also Andrew Martin around the world of elite rugby as well, right? England rugby. Carl loves rugby now as well. Another sport. So
is that a sport? I thought it was like a shirt, a rugby shirt.
So that was...
Maybe that's where it came from.
There you go. So... Elite world, so we talked about excellence, talked about adversity. We also talked about the power of being a role model. Remember that?
I do remember that.
Yeah, a lot of our guests talked about the importance of having a role model, right? Andrew Martin talked about the importance of him with his rugby world and his job with Kick now, basically training coaches to be mentors, right? Then we had two guys from Northern Ireland. We had Bean and we had Peter on. Remember that, talking about youth work?
I remember them. I don't remember a word they said, but I remember them.
You listen very carefully. But I loved how they've been doing youth work for a long time, right? When you read books, you can extract something that you don't actually learn yourself. The podcast, I think we interview people, they've got like 20, 30 years experience, extracted it, put it into gems, they called it. Remember the gems? And they were talking about some things of how the importance of mentoring young people within Belfast, right? We also had Lance Brown. We love Lance. Lance is so good. He talks about mentoring many
Who's your mentor or who are you mentoring? Or both?
That's a great question.
Who is that?
That's a great question. Who's your mentor and who are you mentoring?
That's a good question.
Sensational. Great question. Great challenge. So we've had adversity, we've had excellence, we've had mentoring. We've also got education as well, Mad Dog.
Yeah.
The power of education. Who do we have on?
A couple, right? I mean, Peter Koo, who was at Life University in Cambodia. Now he's been promoted to the Cambodian Premier League, so that was great. I mean, I think the need and the power of education, not just in children, but in young adults as well.
I love that you combine those things. More than just a coach, the power of education, right? Hopefully this podcast will be bringing a bit of education, right? Go and listen to Peter Koo.
Already won university.
It's coming. But we also have Dave Waters. Dave Waters has done some research around dual dream in a South African context.
Dual dream.
So what's that like? What is that? Explain that to people. So a lot of players have a dream to play at the highest level, right? But what was Dave Waters kind of getting people to do from a young age as well, right? Coaches to players, what were they trying to do?
Yeah, I think it was interesting that he, part of an academy where he works, but also the dual dream happens to be, not just sports, because everyone thinks they're going to go professional, making millions of dollars, but very few ever do. But having a dual dream, maybe your sports can take you so far, but then education, looking at a career, what can you do after sports when sports has let you down?
Yeah, and he encouraged coaches to try and get young people to have a dual dream as early as possible. Get it on the radar. What's your dream beyond sport? What is that? He works for a Buntu Football Academy. You can check him out. But you can go and have a look and see how Dave Waters really wants to get that dual dream on the agenda. And that's not just an African context. In our sports friends world, we've had coaches in America and in Canada who've said this is really good for a Canadian-based context as well. So education. We also had Coach Elta.
Coach Elta.
South Africa as well.
Cricket. There's that cricket again. We had season 1, season 2. We have more cricket, but I think she's amazing. Honoring her brother through her foundation, the Harry Manissi Foundation. Just amazing. Just being able to help the community through education, through sports, through just the quality of life. Yeah,
go and listen back to Coach Elta. Kokwana, love it.
Auntie.
And the last one we had was the power of discipleship, right? Our sports friends thing, we make disciples through sport. That's what we do, right? That's our thing we do. But we had so many people who talked about this idea of mentoring young people, whole life discipleship, right? We had Mike Masters talking about that, right? Do you remember when he came in and spoke a bit about that? So Mad Dog, we also had Lance Brown. Do you remember Lance Brown, what he talked about?
Yeah, him being at Vanderbilt, being the chaplain in several different programs, and then his own organization helping out other universities. Basketball, his wife helping with basketball, and then other campuses and other places, just helping students, being available to them, just being there for them, with a listening ear, plate of food, talked about it. We need to increase our budget.
We're here.
Well, it's supposed to go to food. Where's the food?
Well, we spent it on the beach instead. No, but we loved it. And then what was great about Lance was that he actually discipled some of Bob Kramer's children. So our global leaders' children invested in them intentionally. And Bob came on the podcast and he spoke about the impact of that on his own children, right? And that discipleship around that as well. And Bob spoke about how sports ministry is an amazing platform to do discipleship, right?
He started off in the business world, being a lawyer, and then being part of the Sports Friends short-term trips, being an ambassador, and then being called to be the global leader. That's a big step. But he's able to do that because he's always been available to God's will. And
so amazing. So there's so many different topics that we had. We've categorized them. Season 1 review, remember? We categorized them. You enjoyed that?
Too much.
We're categorized in season 2.
Too much.
We had, it's not too much.
Go back and watch.
We had discipleship. We had mentoring. We had education. We had excellence. And we had adversity. Go back and watch the topics. Great topics.
Great topics.
Now we're going to review the tools. We're going to give you 5 tools. 5 tools. Every guest came in and gave a practical tool at the end of every episode, right? So if you want to go back and listen to them, you can. But we're going to summarize them, Mad Dog.
We are.
We had some great quotes. Here's Charlie Ward with a great quote to start us off, by the way, before we get into the tools.
Our expectations of life, kind of set our standards. We have high expectations. Our standards should be high. We got to put the work in to make sure that we're meeting those expectations. In college, our expectations every year was to win a national championship. And if that is our expectation, then, we had to have the process in place. We had to put the work and the time in to make sure that came to fruition. It's like if you don't expect anything, most times you don't work hard. You just think everything's okay. And you don't push past comfortable. Some people do, but most people don't if they have low expectations, and that's in anything. And so we always talk about, expectations, set our standards.
Tool number 1. Tool number 1 was from
Bishop Tony.
That is
the legend
right.
of all the one-liners that been your inspiration.
Yeah, disciple me. in the one-liners. But he talked about a tool, which was never lose your passion for Jesus. Right? He talked about some elite athletes that had unfortunately lost their faith. He said, love sport, give your all to the game, but remember the game isn't all. But above all, never lose your passion for Jesus.
So when people become Christians, I want them to stay. I remember a cricketer came over, it was from the West Indies actually, and he said his pastor had told him that he couldn't play the sport anymore because it wasn't Christian. He had to come out and be a youth worker. And I went ballistic. That's just nonsense. And you have to live it out. You know, when I became a Christian, I think some of the people thought, because I put Jesus stickers on my hockey sticks, you know, why shouldn't they know I'm a Christian? And they thought, because I was a Christian, I'd go soft on the hockey field. Well, we soon sorted that out. You know, I'm very competitive. I don't become less competitive because I'm a Christian. I want to win. I remember being told, you give you all in the game, but remember the game's not all. That's a very good phrase from Alan Godson, who was one of the original people of Christians in sport. You give you all in the game, but remember the game isn't all.
So whether you're involved in any kind of ministry, sports ministry, never lose your passion for Jesus. Tool 1.
Tool 1.
Tool number 2, Mad Dog, came from the rugby coach.
Andrew Martin.
That is
Kick
right.
UK.
That's right.
The Miami Dolphin misplaced fan.
And he talks about the power of
Sports.
observation in sports.
Observation in sports. I was going to say that after sports.
So Andrew Martin talked about the more you do something, the better you get.
The better you get.
Would you agree with that?
I was just going to say it too, but yeah I agree.
Yeah, you
I agree.
So like when you're coaching, the more you coach, the more you get on the grass or maybe get on the beach.
The beach volleyball, let's do it.
To coach that, the more you do it, get out there, you have the confidence to be able to not worry about where the cones are going to go or your next progression, but instead you can stand back and look and observe what's going on.
Done the hard work. Now it's become memory, but now you're going to keep doing it and pursue excellence.
And you can also see how God's at work, right? If you're looking at different things and you're listening to what's going on, maybe you can pull over a young person and have a conversation about that because you've observed what's happening, you've observed their behavior. I really enjoyed that from Andrew Martin. And they, of course, train coaches to go into loads of schools who become mentors and coaches, more than just coaches in schools. So that is the power of observation. Tool number 2.
Tool number 3.
And number 3.
From Antoine Carbell, AC, the man himself. He had 2 great coaches.
He did.
Coach Shula and Coach Saban, legendary coaches.
Should we see what we said about them?
Let's see.
Let's watch this clip.
Coach Shula was, kind of the reason why I ended up at Alabama. You know, I just remember him having a energy and a spirit about him that like just felt so genuine. Like during the recruiting process, you know, you meet with all these coaches, you know, at the time, all these SEC schools, a lot of the other schools you're meeting with, and you know, sometimes it just comes down to seriously, like who do you feel like you have a genuine connection to? I felt like I had a genuine connection with Mike, and when he would come into the house and sit down with my family, everyone would always leave with that same feeling like, man, this guy is genuine. Like, of course, he sees you as a talent and wants you to play ball, but I always felt like even when ball was over with, he would be someone that I could pick up the phone if I ever needed to call or discuss anything or lean on him for anything, which he still is to this day. It's a pretty stark contrast, right? I think between Coach Shula and Coach Saban. I think when Nick came in, he was different because you already knew he had a pedigree, right? You knew about what he did at LSU. You knew what he was attempting to do at Miami. And I kind of just remember being like, man, you know, didn't know a whole lot about him, but knew that what he was going to bring, his reputation was going to be a stark difference than what we had in Coach Shula. And I remember from the first team meeting, you know, like I've told this story before, and fortunately or unfortunately it's true, but our first team meeting, we're kind of just sitting in there and just being dumb college kids, just, you know, leaning back in your chair, throwing paper planes in the team meeting while Nick's walking up to the podium. And, you know, all of us are just kind of sitting around, playing around. And he kind of unassumingly puts his paper up on the podium, puts the microphone down, and he goes, hey, before we get started, I just want to tell everybody that everyone kind of just needs to sit up in their chairs. Everybody's like throwing papers and pens and everything go flying around. You know, I kind of just remember from that day forward, like, man, this dude means business. You know, so that after that first team meeting, you know, kind of after that, you know, I knew then, like, hey, this is going to be kind of a different feel than what we're used to. But I remember Nick saying throughout that, after that meeting, hey, this is going to be a different intensity level. It's going to require different focus. But I knew when he was talking, he's already done it, right? There is something to someone that has accomplished some of the goals that you're trying to achieve. So it kind of hit and landed with a lot of us differently, having Nick in the building. And obviously, there's no way you can deny and argue how everything ended up turning out.
Good stuff, man.
Love it. Great insight there, right? But what did he say, AC? He said a good coach is...
More than just the X's and O's. More than just writing up plays and strategies. It's
going to coach the individual. So really he talks about understanding everyone's personality. And AC talks about how the best coaches he'd had were those who actually knew him on a level and connected deeper. It was interesting, actually, his pastor as well, Pastor Chad, said that around coaches that he had as well, right? He had some practical tools as well. One of them was to work out before you preach. Now, before this episode, the Mad Dog's a little nervous, getting to the beach, been nervous about on this, podcast stuff live. So what are we doing before?
working now. The gym, bro. In the gym, bro.
Physical training is of some value, right? Settle the nerves down, great practical tool for Pastor Chad. But the other one was around reading, right? I say all leaders are readers. What did Pastor Chad encourage us to do?
Pastor Chad encouraged us to read.
He did.
Not just one subject or sort of framework, but three. First being
3 topics.
Leadership development. Not just Christian leadership development. Could do, but leadership development. How do global leaders, how do industry leaders take on various challenges and head on?
So one of his categories was leadership development. The second one was around theology, so theological books, yeah? So if you're in ministry, going to read books around that, which obviously will enhance different things, right? And the last one was?
Christian development.
Aha, so he's got leadership development, theology, and Christian development. Fascinating how they were his 3 categories of books. I've actually started implementing that in my life now. I'm trying to read 52 books a year, 1 a week, and I'm trying to categorize them like Pastor Chad said. So thank you, Pastor Chad. We're on the beach now, but I do say we do actually read still, but we're not on the beach, right? All leaders are readers, Mad Dog.
Tool number 4.
Tool number 4.
Oh, Canada. The Olympian, Sarah Chowdhury.
Who's now working for FCA in sports ministry, working in the world of disability sports. And she told us the practical tool of treating every individual child as being special and
unique.
Special and unique.
But also working with the parents.
Right, so making sure that the parents become allies. Why is that? Why should we work with the parents?
Well, being a parent myself, and your child growing up, eventually playing in sports, doing music, doing academics, you have to work with those that the child's working with to be in support. So they're not fighting, you're pitting your parents against the teacher, parents against the coach. You got to work together.
Yeah, because she said that the parent is an expert in their child, right? So if they respond a certain way from something, then the parent will know, listen to that, use that, give them insight, which is going to help you with some difficult young people, right? And we all have those players, right? Maybe a little bit difficult, behavior issues, but Sarah said, don't see that as a challenge, see them as being special and unique. Loved it. What a practical tool that is.
Great tool. Tool number 5.
5 and alive.
Best for last, maybe? I don't know.
Maybe.
Youngest for sure.
Definitely youngest.
Youngest guest in already won history.
Season 1 and Season 2.
Season 1, Season 2. Season 3, we don't know yet. We don't know. We don't know who we're going to get, but right now she's the youngest one.
Yeah.
NCAA collegiate athlete, but also an intern with Sports Friends. DK Roy.
And her tool was?
Be a lifelong learner.
Oh.
And her life is just beginning.
So good.
I'm almost done. You're halfway there.
Done in one.
Be a lifelong. I love learning.
Yeah, they never stop learning.
Old dog, new tricks.
There you go.
Old dog, new tricks.
DK really encouraged everyone to she'd listen to all of the podcasts as part of her internship.
Wait a second. She didn't do it because she wanted to?
Wow, we're not sure.
I think she did.
Yeah, but she said that she learned a lot from the guests. Maybe not from us, but from the guests.
Definitely not from us.
Be a lifelong learner. Love it. And because of that, Mad Dog, we've had the topics and tools, coach focus in Season 2 in the blue sea, blue sky to finish. Season 2 review. What's coming next, Mad Dog?
I think 3.
Season 3. Season 3.
2025, we're going to thrive. Season 3.
I love that. But why 2025 thrive? Are you going to be here next 3-4 months?
I'm not leaving.
On the beach?
Wherever you're going to be, Ben, this is my studio now. You're going to see me on the beach.
So you're here.
I'm here.
He's already won.
We'll fly the guests in. We'll get every big guest.
So you're just soaking up all the knowledge.
Brazilian football players.
All the nuggets.
All the nuggets. The
So-
golden
so
nuggets
good
are
at
going
it.
to be falling
So good at it.
into my hands.
Unbelievable scenes. Well, guys, we just want to thank you so much for listening to season 2 of the Audio One podcast. We hope there has been some topics and some tools that you can go back and listen to. Some of those guests, those clips, there's way more insight right around that. We had married couples, we had pasta on, we had elite guests, we had so much variety of sports. That's what we do on Audio One, right? So go back and listen on. Where can they listen?
They can listen to it on any one of their favorite streaming platforms, but, you know, watch us as well. If you're listening on Spotify, iHeartRadio, on Apple Podcasts, whatever you're listening to, that's great. Thank you for that. But kind of go back, maybe get some of the video. We're on Facebook, we're on YouTube. Just check out what's going on with the facial expressions. Because right now, I'm talking and I'm waving. His hands are flailing.
And the sweat is pouring.
Part of the whole process.
And you also get some good pictures from the guests as well.
And the beach.
On the beach. But the guests have got some pictures
Yes.
there, ministry. It enhances what they're talking about as well. So great shout there, Mad Dog. But hey, look, we're here. We're season 2. It's been reviewed in the blue. But what do we got to do?
We're going global.
Going global.
Oh, wait. But before we do that, you got to tell your friends. Tell your friends' parents. Tell your parents' friends. And just tell everyone on the beach. We've already won. We need to go to the beach because we've already won. It's been great. We did it. We're on the beach.
Amazing.
All right. What time does your flight leave?
A few hours.
You know, I'm taking the boat. I can't fly right now. I got to take the boat.
In the boat?
Is that my boat there?
Your boat.
It's leaving.